Therapy is a safe space for us both to grow.
There's nothing that empowers me more with our community than just being who I am.
Yeah. Healing, baby.
That's funny as heck.
Woo! All right. Hello, family.
Hey.
How are y'all?
What's up?
Hi. What's up? Hey, Sean.
Good to see y'all.
Good to see y'all too. All right. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things, which is inner child.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Trina lives for inner child, y'all. Lives for it.
That's awesome.
Don't do me. But let's start with how did y'all entertain y'all inner child today?
Honestly, getting my nails done.
Okay.
Because you know what? Beyonce's coming.
Ooh,
Just letting y'all know that. Girl, I'm gonna be outside for 3 hours. But yeah.
3 hours.
But yeah, that's what it is. Get the preparing and everything to do all that, the excitement, the fun, just like a kid in the candy store seeing a really good artist. That's how I cater to my inner child today.
Awesome. What about you, Shar?
So I played basketball a little bit today.
Ooh, you did a lot.
I did. Well, not played, but I went to the gym and then I shot around.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that is when I was trying to think, I was like, what did I do? And I was like, girl, you was on a basketball court. That is I was like a kid in the candy store.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, I ate some Frosty Flakes.
I know that's right.
I ate Frosty Flakes for breakfast, so I killed 2 birds with one stone. I ate
more sugar?
breakfast. No, more sugar.
Girl, that's the inner child diabetic.
Ooh,
Go ahead.
Jesus. Wow.
Wow.
I can't afford more sugar, so I'm going to leave that to you. No, I didn't add more sugar, but I shook the bag up so the sugar can spread, because I ain't think of that as a child. We just poured it. Then I realized if whoever get the last bit get all the sugar.
Yes.
So my adult self told my child self, shake the bag, sis.
That's what happened? Okay.
Shake the bag, sis. Awesome.
That's
So today we're going to be talking about our inner child. Inner child healing. What is the inner child?
Yeah.
Let's start with inner child healing. What is inner child healing? And I know that in the first episode, I talked about how I believe that we all have today, I guess, because we're all women, that we all have little girls that calls the shots, right? That is constantly making sure nobody don't knock their ice cream out their hand on the playground, or making sure that Uncle Tom don't give Keisha them money and not you, whatever the case, whatever your childhood experience is, we carry that into our adult life, not necessarily the same event, but with something smells or looks or sounds familiar to those experiences, we want to protect ourselves. So, back when I was 5, that might have been the ice cream that got knocked out of my hand. But today is if somebody do some fraud on my Bank of America account.
We fighting.
10 things. So I can get it back, but that doesn't change the fact that somebody just knocked my ice cream out my hand.
Yeah, that's good.
So what is inner child? Let's just start there. What is inner child?
I think it's anything we want it to be.
Okay.
Right? When we think about it, what did you want as a child? What was the most liberating feelings you had or anything like that? Could just be whatever you want it to be. My inner child could be 5, it could be 4, it could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 13, 15, 18. All that is a part of me. We don't lose those ages. Those ages come along with us. That growth, that knowledge comes along with us. So it's whatever we want it to be.
Yeah, I think what I would add is it's our truest self.
Okay.
I feel or your purest self is the inner child.
That's good. When you say your purest self, I recall when I first started therapy. I guess my therapist picked up on the fact that I was, calculated, had to do right, and just live my whole life trying not to go to hell. And one of the exercises that she gave me, she said, you have anyone young in your family? I said, yeah. At the time, my little sister was about maybe 8 years old. And she said, I want you to do an activity with her and just observe her. And she was like, that's going to be the start of you getting to your authentic self, right? So she said, observe her, write down some things that may stick out to you. So this particular time we went fishing. And I had just got enough courage to learn how to take the fish off the hook because you'd be wiggling and all of that. But I couldn't be no punk in front of her. So I'm like, we're going to get this fish off. So long story short, we're fishing and she catches something. But as she catches something, the pole hits a palm tree and then the palm tree hits her in the head. She throws the pole down, still in the water. The fish could have took the pole away. She ain't care. She threw the pole down and she stomped the palm tree and she was like, don't be hitting me in my head. And I looked and I said, wow, like she experienced a raw emotion. She wasn't calculated. She didn't think twice about it. The pole could have went in the water. In that moment, she wanted the palm tree to know that you were in the wrong and I don't like how you made me feel.
That's powerful.
And I took that, and from then I've just really been on this journey of healing my inner child and being a little bit more childish in my lifestyle and the things that I do. Like, it doesn't have to be calculated, just trusting myself, trusting my gut, and trusting that I know what's best.
That's good. Wow. Shout out to Claudia.
Right. Claudia be working miracles and stuff.
Ooh, I love that lady.
All right. So I kind of told y'all a little bit about my inner child experiences, but let's talk a little bit about what your inner child looks like. The good and the bad. Well, the healthy and unhealthy, because, we got...
Well, the good part of my inner child is that she was carefree. I was very independent as a child. That's what I can remember. Very, very, it could have been trauma too, but we're not going to talk about it. But I think that I love that about me. Like, I could play with myself. I could play with adults. I could do whatever. I could play with kids. Like, I fit wherever I wanted to fit in. That was what I loved about her. Like, she was just like, all right, bro, we just gonna do it. You want to play you want to do track? All right, we're gonna do track for like 2 seasons, and then I don't want to do track no more. Like, that's literally how it was. But what I don't like about my inner child, I think, and I've talked to you guys about it before, I think she's weak, right? But I also think that she's not necessarily weak. It's just I perceive her as weak because of everything that I've been through. So anytime I cry or get frustrated or get overwhelmed or my anxiety is too high and it's winning, anytime I can't conquer my day the way I want to conquer my day because I'm trying to be in control even though I'm not, I see my inner child as weak. So that creates like an internal battle because I'm calling her weak, but internally my like true self is like, you the weak ass bitch. That's not me. like that don't got nothing to do with me. That's your problem. If you let go of control, you'll see how many avenues we trying to take it. But you just want to be in that little box right here. So that was my battle with her.
All right.
That's good. As I think, man, I think my inner child was so sensitive. And because of that, she was a protector. She wanted to make sure everybody was okay. Is everybody good? God forbid there was like a little bit of tension. My presence was what calmed, whether that was through my parents or extended family or however the case is. So those are some of the things as I reflect and I think about like little Shara. That's what she was, super sensitive. And unfortunately had to be a protector. She shouldn't have had to do that. And then it plays out in my adult life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And my little Trina, I would definitely piggyback off you and say sensitive. She was very sensitive. A peacemaker, like just wanted peace all the time, no matter how she was mistreated. Like talking about turning the other cheek. What? Little Trina Cheeks is busted, disgusted, abused, because I've been turning the other cheek for a long time. So I think that was a big part of it. And being flexible, my mom didn't have a problem with me as a child. And most of that was because I was scared to go to hell. So I would say my inner child was timid. I mean, every decision I made was like, Jesus, is that hell worthy or not? And that's how I live. It was very calculated, very like if somebody knocked the ice cream out my hand on the playground, I gotta turn the other cheek. I can't say nothing. I can't do nothing, because then I'm not being Christ-like, or I'm not being, a good stewardess. I'm just, not being a good person. So my inner child was very much so timid and closed off and agreeable.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of your inner child, right? So how does she show up today, right? Like, when do you notice that little girl? And when you do notice her, how does she show up?
I think the first thing that came to mind, and maybe because I think when I become aggressive, my inner child shows up. And the last time I felt like I had to be aggressive was actually through basketball. About a week ago, when I was playing with a friend, and we were playing at a court with a 5-on-5 with other people. And for context, I've played basketball like a street ball or recreational. I've never played on a team. So everything that I know, I've learned through friends or watching. So we were playing 5-on-5, and I had the ball, and it was like a steal. And so I thought that I needed to, hopefully this makes sense to those who don't play basketball, like clear the ball, basically go past a certain line before I can go lay it up. But because we were playing 5-on-5, apparently I didn't have to. So everybody started screaming at me like, yo, are you stupid? Why don't you just go up? And immediately I was triggered. And I was like, while we're still playing and we going, and these are my teammates. There's not even the other team like criticizing me. And I could take constructive criticism. Again, I've never played professionally or with a coach. So yes, help me, but you're not going to talk to me any kind of crazy. And that's not what we're doing. And then it was like this, the debacle on the court. And then as a female player, I already know y'all talking to me crazy because I'm a woman. Because if it was a guy who did that, y'all would not have said it like that. So that's the last time that she showed out. And I know that she be trying to protect me. Like, if you come at me crazy, I feel like I have to protect myself, because ain't nobody else protect me throughout my life.
Right.
So that's when she shows up.
Awesome. I think I can piggyback on that. My inner child was very angry. I'm still trying me, okay? But I think that I had to be, because no one listened. No one listened. So, or if they were listening, they listened to what they wanted to hear and not what I was truly saying. Hear you out. Right? So anytime I didn't feel, at that point, it was like, there's no more talking, right? So I was very much so the internalize. And then when I hit my limit, I'm spazzing. But I'm also like that when I'm breaking down too, right? Like Trina will tell you, I ain't hear from Kima in like 4 or 5 days. You know what? She'll text me when she's ready. Text her. I'm having a whole nervous breakdown. Like all of that. And that's how I operate, because that's how I was taught to operate. Don't show feelings. Don't feel feelings. Feelings are a sign of weakness. But what was comfortable in my house to show was anger. So if that's the only thing I see people showing, now that's the only thing I'm comfortable showing myself. So you tell me something wrong, I'm cutting you off. You tell me something I don't like, you hurt my feelings, you make me feel like an outsider, I'm cutting you off. That's it. It's either I cut you off or I cut you out. So my inner child was very angry. I'm sorry, babe.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
I would say my inner child shows up when I find myself shutting down or isolating. And typically the trigger is that feeling of abandonment, right? Because it may not be happening, but if it feels like it, then my inner child wants to shut down. And I've came to this understanding because when I was growing up, I have 3 dads. That's what I say. I have 3 dads. But when I was growing up, I remember my grandmother and my uncle, who I later found out was my grandmother and my uncle. I remember when they were trying, like I would hang out at the corner store with my dad, and I remember when they would try to give me things. And I would notice that my dad would always scare them away. So growing up, I just couldn't understand, like, these people got cookies, cakes, pies, and chips. Like, why is my dad running them away? So I would internalize, like, there must be something about me. Like, why do I have to be, why can't I get good things? Why must I be abandoned? Why must this or that? So I remember being a kid kind of shutting down or feeling scared whenever my dad would raise his voice. And when that happens in my adult life, whether it's a relationship or a professor who ain't wrote me back because of my paper or whatever the case may be, I find my little girl shutting down.
Mm-hmm. Abandonment will do it to you, bro. That abandonment wound is real trash.
Yeah.
That perception of being abandoned.
Right.
Perception, right. Because at the end of the day, my dad was protecting me from what he understood protection was. But at 8 and 9 years old, I can't process that in my primitive brain and that mature brain. Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about how our inner child shows up. How does it show up in our practice, in our clients? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Like how their inner child shows up in their sessions?
Tantrums. Listen, I have and I love them to death. I have a client that comes in probably every 3-4 weeks and just breaks down. Well, it's multiple of them, but like just come 3-4 weeks, gonna break down. And it's to the point now we welcome the breakdown. So like when they come in and they break down, instead of being like therapeutic, I'll be eating a snack. I'll be like, you want some? Like letting them cry, getting them and they'll be like breaking, like sobbing, having a whole breakdown about everything that they perceive that they're doing wrong. And I'm like, but you're not. Eat some popcorn with me. And I would just like cater to that inner child. But it's because their inner child never had a breakdown. Their inner child couldn't have a breakdown. They had to be responsible. I relate. So I'm like, I know you need that space to cry and just be vulnerable and let it out. And I welcome that. And I love it for her, So like, go ahead, break down.
Yeah. As I reflect, I think one of the most common ways or behaviors I see is being strong, and I think we alluded to this a little bit in our last episode 3, about feeling like they have to stifle the process. Yeah. But literally like not showing emotion, raw emotion in the moment, and even expressing like, yeah, I'm going to cry in the car or when I get home. It's like, even though they express that they feel safe, they express that we have a therapeutic relationship and that they're not afraid of that emotion, but still wanting to emote independently without another person being present. So I think that's a very common thing that I see.
Yeah, I think on going back to the tantrums, it's very easy to see that when someone doesn't cancel their appointment within the 24-hour mark, or they miss the 15-minute grace period. Sometimes you'll see that little girl, that little boy show up because they want their way. Yeah. Or as you said, I call it, being guarded. Measuring when you can cry and when you can't. Or, growing up, especially in the African American culture, you hear, be quiet before I give you something to cry for while you're already crying. And I see that sometimes play out on the couch and then I have a client that's like, Trina, I don't know why I'm crying. Because you need to.
Yep. It's a common one.
Very common. So I think it comes up a lot in many different ways. And then in my clients' stories, because I focus a lot on the inner child, I'll say things like, okay, and in that moment, what did your little girl need? And in that moment, what did your little boy need? So it comes out a lot in their stories and in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think the when you bring out like behaviors, right? I think that's a key piece. It's like we see our inner child in the way that we act, right? Like, yes, adults have the worst tantrums. We talk about 2-year-olds.
It's worse.
Grown adults having these tantrums. So, I think it's also interesting in any dynamic, if we're aware, we can see people's inner child and maybe not take things as personal as we may have in the past.
Yes. Yeah, definitely not take it personal. Even piggybacking on like the cancellation fees and everything else. Like, I can't tell you how many I had a client come in straight beefing. I ain't like the cancellation fee. Okay. You don't have to like it, sis. You know, so it's not about what you like or what you don't like. It's sometimes people have their structures and their boundaries, and you just have to respect it. And we have to deal with the big feelings that come with that. And that big feeling may be like, oh, somebody let our inner child down or whatever. And that's okay. Like, nobody's letting your inner child down. Right now, you're letting you down because you're not allowing yourself to feel those emotions and recognize, like, it's okay for my anger and frustration to exist as well as the rules to exist. Both can exist in the same space.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think that's where we limit ourselves. We think that I can't cry and also be okay. I can have a breakdown because it means I'm crazy, right? And I'm a victim of that too, because my therapist hates me, sorry, Julie. She'd be like, girl, can you please stop scheduling your tears? Like, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna watch all these sad movies, and I know they're gonna make me cry and tear jerk, and I'll drop the little thug tear, and then I'll be good. And she'd be like, girl, like, can you, like, it took me 2 years to cry in front of her.
Yeah.
Because I did not feel, and when I did cry, I was like trying to suck it back up, and she was like, girl, like, cry, what is wrong with you, you know? So we need to understand that both things can exist in the same space, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that something's wrong. It just means that we're coexisting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good. That makes me think about the scenario I just described with my little sister who's having a good time, but pretty much telling the palm tree, like, don't mess with me. And then I think about the feelings wheel, where I tell my clients to give me 2 positive and 2 negative emotions to capture their week. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll say, this sounds contradicting, but I was angry, but then I was content. And I'm like, perfect, because that they can exist at the same time. You're giving yourself permission to know that I can be okay and not okay. I could be happy and I could be sad, because there's things that are going good in my life, and then there's things that that may not be so pleasant, and that's okay. That's what makes you human. And I think the reason why we use the term inner child, because it's really saying your authentic self, right? Because children, they don't have a filter. How they feel it, how they see it, how they say it, it will be said.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's really about authenticity. When we say your inner child, it's like, what's your authentic self? Without boundaries, without them and they, without worrying about how you look, how you sound,
judgment,
what you smell like. Who are you?
Let's get out them boxes,
Yeah.
y'all.
When Kima was talking earlier, it made me think about another like behavior that I see in clients, and probably myself as well, is when there's structure, and you talked about like the no show and all that stuff, and bucking. I had a client, and we have a really good therapeutic relationship, and one session it was a rough session. I had to hold her accountable. And she was like, oh, I thought we were good, Tesharia. I said, we're good. Just because I'm being more stern doesn't mean that I don't care. Right. And so that level of structure, her inner child, right? When she was a child, that came with wrath. She did not feel loved. And so now when I had to be that bad guy, now I don't like her. Now I'm, on her husband's side. And it's like, I'm still impartial, right? But I still have to hold you accountable.
Right. Because we wrong. We can be wrong. And we say this in the Caribbean, you can't be wrong and strong. You can't.
Gotta pick a struggle.
Cannot be wrong. Pick a struggle. You cannot have both. And I think that's where that comes in. Like, when you're wrong, you have to, and people are telling you you're wrong, like, you have to take that in. Now, how you tell me I'm wrong is the key. Because if you coming at my neck, baby, we fighting. Like I'm
that's the inner child.
That's the inner child. I'm coming defense mode. If you coming at me defensive and putting my back against the wall, I'll do that. But if you say like, hey, bro, like, when you did this, like, it just really wasn't cool. Like, it just really wasn't cool. Like, this how I've been feeling for a while. I haven't found the space to say it, whatever. I can rock with that. But if you're like, you, okay, baby, it takes 2 to tango. Do not put all that on me. So I think it's all about communication, how people communicate that to us. And if you communicate it, and if our parents had communicated it in that safe way, right, but they did it the way that they knew, we would probably be able to deal with constructive criticism and conflict and boundaries and accountability different. But we can't, because we struggle with that.
Right. So we've talked a lot about what it is, what it looks like in our personal lives and our experience as therapists. And of course, people would want to know, like, how do you heal the inner child? And I think that we have to start at the foundation, which is getting to know him or her. Like, how do you get to know your little girl or your little boy? And with that being said, I would like for us to kind of end talking about how do we introduce play into our lives, right? Because the first step to even knowing what your inner child is and how she feels or how he feels is you got to start with play, because at the playground is where it goes down.
Oh yeah.
At the playground is where it goes down. You know, you meet new people, you identify your strength, if you can do the monkey bars, if you go down the slide. Like there is so much revelation at the playground.
That's true.
So let's talk about how to introduce play in your lives and maybe help individuals start with introducing play in their lives.
So for me personally, I think one of the ways that I actively do it is through like dancing and music. So like if I go out, I'm like looking to see like who I can engage with. I don't care if it's somebody who is totally opposite. They could be like a 67-year-old white male. Like I'm here to have a good time, and I'll engage with them through dance and music because that's a universal language.
Okay.
So I'll just do something silly. And then typically they join, and it just becomes this playful experience. And so that's what I do. I don't care how I look. I don't care if they reject me, because I can also, bop my way to somebody else, and I'm having a good time. It's something that I enjoy. Awesome. So that's how I engage play.
I agree. Same. Music has become my go-to. Like just playing. I have a dog. I'm in love with my dog.
Yes, she is, y'all.
And I will put music on, blast it, and we kind of, from a puppy, we taught my dog how to dance. So when we're dancing around, she'll go on like her twos and like whatever. So we'll dance around the house. I'll be cleaning the house, but like I'm still connecting to my inner child. Like, okay, yeah, this is songs from back in the day or recent songs or whatever, and I'll just do random dances or whatever. I'll try to do the Afro beats even though I suck, but I'll do it because that's what my inner child want to do, and I'll laugh at myself, and I just won't take myself seriously. And I think that's like a common theme that really brings us together too, is like we'll put some music on and we'll all just be randomly doing something, not even realizing the other person's doing something, and then we turn around and be like, oh, okay girl, let's go, and that's just how we vibe. So I think that's the best way to let my inner child out, is through like music and dancing and singing and just being that carefree self that I always wanted to be.
Yeah. I think that just brings so much revelation as to why we get along, and why we connect, because music is my thing too. Like, music. It just lets little Trina free. I turn my speaker up. I know my neighbor is probably sick of me, but I have a ball by myself. Sometimes my family like, Muff, that's my little girl named Muff. But like, Muff, we haven't seen you in forever. Like, I say, I'll be home. If y'all come by, I'll be right there with my speaker on and my music and just having a great time. So I think dancing in some ways. Sometimes I recommend to my client to go to a playground. See how you feel. Get some bubbles from Walmart or Walgreens or Dollar Store and just blow bubbles. Even if you need to engage with a child in order to see that liberation.
Yes.
Do that. That's okay. We don't have to complicate it. Going back to the previous episode, just do it. So those are some ways. Do you guys have any recommendations for people to try to engage in their inner child?
I mean, just think about it. I'm from the Caribbean, so we ain't had no playground, okay? West Indian, we had the streets. Like, you go out, you play in the street, and then when the car comes, you move out the way. Like, everybody knew that. But climb a tree. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember I was like, oh, it's mango season. And I was like, oh, I want to climb this tree and get this mango. But I don't know if the neighbor gonna catch me. So it was literally like me sneaking to get a mango. And I was so excited and so happy to get that mango. Like, it can be something as simple as that. Like, climb a mango tree or try to steal a mango, whatever. Like, just do what you need to do for yourself. Like, connect back to what you knew. What was safe, what was happy, what was freeing. Like, if it was the beach, go to the beach. That's all we had was playing in the streets and play whatever, kickball, soccer, baseball, whatever. And honestly, just going to the beach and diving and everything. Like, I remember I used to play school with my teddy bears, and my cousin used to fight my teddy bears, and him and I still beef. We still beef about that, like where he can't touch my teddy bears. So you can play around and just do whatever makes you happy, but I still have all my teddy bears from a kid. Well, no, I'm lying. I have 2 teddy bears from when I was a kid. One of them is a devil.
Oh, that's wild. So a couple things to add. I think if you have any children around in your family or in your life, just hanging out with them, like preferably 5 and under. I think anytime being around them is super dope, and they'll bring out the kid in you, or show you that you're taking things too deeply. The second thing I would suggest is, this is really silly, but pausing and like just die laughing. Just, cackle to yourself. There doesn't have to be anything funny, just cackle. Literally, from the gut, right? And then you'll realize, like, okay, until your cheeks hurt. Another thing that's really silly is just getting in a space where you can't knock anything over and just spin for about 5 times. Because you can't be serious and spin as an adult.
That's true.
Like,
those 2 things that can't exist.
You cannot. Those 2 things can't exist at the same time. And then the last thing, for those who maybe, those other things may be too silly, is a color.
Yeah, coloring book.
It's color.
I color all the time. I always ask for kids coloring things when I'm out, like for like dinner or something with family.
Absolutely.
And I'm always like coloring and hella focused. Like,
yes.
It's cool.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. Yeah, me and Shara went out for dinner maybe 2 weeks ago, and we asked the server, can we get 2 kids menus so we can color? And like, they gave us this little rinky-dink little thing that we didn't see. So it was like, no, we want the stuff behind the hostess station. And it was like, oh, okay. And we sat there and we colored and we ate dinner, and just in that, and we didn't even talk. We just engaged in that activity. So it's not that complicated. Go back to what you remember feeling good when you were a child. Sometimes it's just a fruit, like you mentioned, like mangoes or watermelon or whatever the case may be. But just really engaging in things that felt good to you as a child.
Absolutely.
Awesome.